Hello, everyone, and my friends, my colleagues, my peers, and my enemies. They're welcome too. Welcome to another Friday, and you know I love Fridays because we get to look at some fundamentalists. And hello, Star Song. Good to see you. Yeah, so thank you for joining me. We have a very, very interesting one, or one that I think is interesting today, which is sort of this guy that crossed my radar. And the more I looked into him, the more I kind of couldn't believe what I was seeing. There's something about pastors and being fraudsters that I think is more of an overlap than. I think there's not just a sort of there's definitely a correlation between the two. Could it be causation? No. Could it be that people that are pastors are deliberately dishonest people? Maybe. There's definitely something about them, and I've got a few sort of things here. I'll go for a while and sort of show you. This is Jim Staley. Now, Jim Staley is a evangelical preacher who kind of got himself into some trouble, and I'll find that for you. He's basically and there's parallels with this guy that really the parallels that I've noticed is with our friend Hovind. I don't know what it is about preachers and um, being done for fraud, but it seems to be occurring at a ridiculous rate. And I've got a few things where this guy has been done for basically really, really horrible stuff. Now, what's so egregious about this is that Jim runs Passion for Truth Ministries. Yes, the guy convicted of fraud calls his ministry Passion for Truth. Like you just can't make this stuff up. Like it's just incredible. So I want to first go through Jimmy Boy's biography to start off with, because in actual fact, it's kind of hilarious. Sort of how much a man can dodge and duck around an issue and sort of um, let's see if we can land the plane here. I will share that and we'll put it on the screen. Yeah, so this is Jim Staley. Jim Staley has been married to Cheryl Staley. I'll get a bit of a zoom in for you. There you go. He's been married to Cheryl Staley since 1996. Wait a second. Uh, really? Really? He seems like, he's late 40s. Okay. Is that his first wife? Not sure. But anyway, in 2002, he had a supernatural experience. Oh, of course he did. Of course he did. Would lead him to understanding the Bible from the author's original Hebraic mindset. Of course he did. Yeah, no, he knows exactly what the person who wrote it meant. That's and he got that not through study and not through contextual study of the text itself. He got that through a supernatural experience. No, it sounds legit, right? Sounds absolutely legit. Um, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Um, this new understanding will revolutionize his life, how to properly interpret the Bible text. Since founding Passion for Truth Ministries, he has devoted these life-changing biblical insight with others around the globe. His journey started in a modest beginnings in his basement in 2007, which led to a 55,000 square foot building overseeing 22 employees and a live stream watched by over 10,000 individuals a week. This hyper growth reflected not only his passion, but just how zealous believers. I think zealous he should replace with perhaps gullible believers from around the world to hear about this fresh, new Hebraic understanding of the scriptures. Yeah, yeah. And also it's interesting to note in 2008, you also started work for he started his own in sort of a sales investment company that did work, but we'll get to that later. However, his trajectory took an unexpected turn when the financial planning company he worked for. That's not quite true. That's not quite true. Before he was in full-time ministry, led him down a path of losing everything. After the stock market crash, largest stock market crash in history in 2008. Yeah, but that wasn't the reason. The state of Missouri did an investigation and cleared him of any criminal activity. Not quite true. Not quite true, in my opinion. But 4 years later, the feds, who did not communicate with the state of Missouri, chose to indict Pastor Jim, believing instead that he created the product and intentionally set out to defraud his clients. Although only a salesman, that doesn't. What does that matter? What does that matter? It doesn't really matter that he was just a salesman. He was the only one targeted in the entire company, and we'll get to that, why that is. This ordeal forced him into a 5-year period of imprisonment starting in 2015. So, like, talk about trying to gently land that plane. Yeah, I'm a pastor, but I've been in jail for fraud. How do I land that plane? How do I break that to people? Although, you know, Hovind doesn't even include that in his bio, of course. So at least he's one up on Hovind, I guess. Although he and his family went through the most difficult times of their lives, God was faithful through it all, and the call on their lives, you know, oh, poor him. Poor him. You know, to defraud people and then get away with 5 years. I think you've actually come off pretty well, actually. Yeah, the new higher learning facility, i.e., prison, like prison is not a higher learning facility. I'm really sorry. Like, what are you talking about? Would be just the place to remake, remold, and release a new, fresh wind gym that is very tangibly felt to that. I mean, talk about polishing a turd, right? Like, oh, it was great that I went to prison because I used it to develop myself. Like, he's just back to his old tricks. Remarkably, due to a shared faith, Jim and a former federal judge share a unique post-prison friendship post-prison, and still from time to time go up to lunch to debrief on what God has been doing in Jim's life and ministry. Okay, well, I mean, we've got nowhere to check that. I'll take it as true. Sure, he befriended and this leads into some of the things that I've been saying, and how people of faith get treated much better by the prison system and the prison establishment. You know, he befriended a priest because they were both religious. Okay, but that doesn't mean that what he did was great, and that doesn't mean that he should be trusted. He has been to prison, but sort of talk about, you know, dressing it up like, oh, it was a great thing and it wasn't my fault, and you know, how do we trust somebody that basically says it wasn't his fault? And you know, I'll take you through because I did sort of research this, what the timeline kind of was and what actually happened, and what sort of the other people in his religion says about it. While holding a master's in theology, he is currently working on 4 different books and is actively pursuing a PhD. Sure, good on him. While directing Passion for Truth Ministries through his live broadcast each week on social media, Pastor Staley's experience primarily stems from intensive self-study of biblical culture, fearlessly exploring areas often overlooked by academia. You know what that means? You know what that means? That challenges. Fearlessly exploring areas overlooked by academia. That you can just write, like, I don't know why he used that long phrase where you could just write pseudoscience there. Like, really, let's face it. You know, when you have like somebody in theology exploring areas that are overlooked by mainstream academics and ignored by the scientific community, you know, it's basically just saying, hey, he subscribes to pseudoscience, essentially. That's essentially it, right? Challenging the long-standing traditions and doctrines of men. Yeah, you know what that translates into? I don't believe in science. That's what that translates to. His teachings have translated to numerous languages worldwide and have garnered attention on various Christian. That's I mean, sure. His overarching objective remains steadfast to empower believers to realize their full potential in Christ by reconnecting with the genuine Christian roots of his faith. Yeah, the problem is that everyone thinks they have the genuine roots of the Christian faith, and they all disagree. His ultimate desire is to see the Acts chapter 2 power of God uh, displayed again in the body of the Messiah. I didn't actually look up what Acts 2 was. I did read this, but Acts 2. The Holy Spirit comes at Pentecost. So he's basically a Pentecostal. Yeah. Yeah, Pentecostal. Okay, so yeah. Wow. Bible things in Bible ways. Got to love this guy. And sort of so um we've got to look at the timeline of what exactly happened with this guy. Now we have, and I do have a breakdown of. So this is the court listener. It's just a something that prints the legal records of it. So this is 2014 indictment in returned in open court. So it is quite likely that the court didn't find him, or in my opinion, the court didn't find him, as he says, um, um, sort of the state of Missouri did an investigation and cleared him of any criminal activity. I don't think that happened. I think that what they did is because, and this is just my opinion, but because it involved multiple states, they referred it to the federal court, right? So they may have found, hey, you've done nothing wrong in Missouri, but this isn't the state of Missouri versus Staley, if you notice here. It's the United States versus Staley, which means that it's a federal indictment. So if you commit a crime that goes over state boundaries or violates a federal statute, it is quite likely that they will indict you under federal law. And it may not be, the state may say, hey, this isn't necessarily a crime under state regulations. It doesn't absolve you from any federal regulations. So, so the indictment was returned. It has a long list of what went on. Usually you will get court documents like this. There'll be a lot of movement on them. Some of the documents are quite hilarious. Sort of third motion to conditions of release. He basically, he wanted to have a vacation while he was indicted. And so he was asking to permission from the court to go overseas. And the court, I believe, sort of confiscated his passport, which is just hilarious. Continue sentencing, but you'll get a lot of this. Deanna Collins is victim testimony at sentencing. And so the defendant actually pled guilty to participating in a scheme to intentionally defraud investors by means of false and fraudulent pretenses, representations, and promises. So what actually happened was that he had, he had, and I'll find this document for you. And I'll find a sort of overview of what actually happened from a news article. So this is actually the Christian Post, a Christian news article. So it was a $3.3 million scam. So some elderly victims and their relatives lashed out at Jim Stanley in court yesterday, calling words like sick, manipulative, and deceitful. He was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison and paid $3.3 million in restitution. So he pleaded guilty to 4 counts of fraud and confessed he cheated others in an investment scam. He made $570,000 from it. The elderly victims, some of who were slipping in dementia when he preyed on them, said they trusted him because he was professed his Christian faith and family values, only to discover that he's a disgusting and sickening criminal, is what they said. So he'd appeared on multiple TV networks. He leads a congregation of 200 people. So what happened was that he, in a message to his supporters post on Facebook page, he wrote, "Although this is no doubt a difficult time, we are confident in the one who began good work is faithful just to finish it. My life has been..." So this is the con man, like I've done this thing. So basically he preyed on elderly people, offering them an investment in insurance, life insurance, that he knew that if the company that he was offering it through, a company called B&B, so he had his own company in sales that was doing commission work for this second company. And he knew that if he could not get B&B to sell the insurance bundles, that all of these people would lose money, right? All of these people would just lose money. So he basically used his religion and his position as a pastor to convince all of these elderly people to give them money, right? So according to the court documents, in 2007, he operated Wealth Financial International. So he operated that company. In the same year, he became an agent for premium financing company known as B&B Equity. So he wasn't, like, when he said his bio, he says, "Oh, the only person from the company that got hit was me." Well, the company that he was working for, he was running his own company, working for them as an agent. So it's slightly dodgy straight there. B&B required the lender investor to invest the insurance policy for a fixed period of time varying from 18 months to 2 years. So he received the commission for each investor that he found to contribute financial purchasing for the life insurance policy. So he was bundling up life insurance investment and selling it. During this period of time, Staley represented to clients of Wealth Financial that B&B Premium Financing Company would sell the bundled insurance policies on the open market with guaranteed returns, right? So he intimated that they would get guaranteed returns on this policy, and that B&B Finance Premium Financing Company would be securing these investments. However, Staley was well aware that if B&B was unable to secure a buyer for the bundled insurance policies, his clients would lose all of their monies invested in the premium financing sold by B&B. And it wasn't B&B that was sort of saying this. If you are doing financial advice, you have to make sure that the people are aware of the risks, and they were not aware of the risks. So he pled guilty to 4 felony counts of wire fraud. And I believe wire fraud is sort of just using any electronic system to commit fraud. So he defrauded these people by saying to them, "Hey, this will have guaranteed returns." They presented evidence of that. He pled guilty to it. So he pled guilty, right? He didn't sort of say, "Hey, no, I never said that." He pled guilty, and then later on, he tried to change his opinion and blame his lawyer, which is a common tactic with these people. Blame the lawyer. It's all the lawyer's fault. And so when we go back to our thing here, he was sort of and this is where he tried to change his plea after the fact, right? So this is a motion to vacate, set aside a correct sentence. The motion appears to be time barred. The court will order movement to show cause why the motion should not be summarily dismissed. So basically, this is in 2019, right? So ages after the court case was in 2015. So this is well and truly expired. He's sentenced to term to 84 months imprisonment, 3 years of supervised release. The movant, who is Staley, did not appeal. On the 2015, he filed a pro se motion to rescind his guilty plea, asserting the court lacked jurisdiction over him, challenging the constitutionality of various criminal statutes and sentencing guidelines, and asserting that his criminal rights were violated. In essence, Movant claimed to be a sovereign citizen. Because of course he did. Of course he claimed to be a sovereign citizen. And now this isn't just my opinion. This is the court saying that. Right? So he basically put in a motion to say, hey, you don't have authority over me. Does that remind you of anybody? Does that remind you of, does it remind you of Hovind? Does it remind you of, it reminds me of Hovind. It really does. And these guys, they're so similar in what they do. So basically, that's all shot down. It's hereby ordered why the motion should not be dismissed if it fails to comply. So it basically just gets shot down because, of course, he does. He pled guilty, and then later on through, he wants to say, "Oh no, I'm not guilty at all." You don't plead guilty if you're not guilty. If like they can sort of suggest things to you, but at the end of the day, it is your decision. And so this passion for truth thing is so whitewashed and massaged to say, hey, yeah, if anyone looks, I have a criminal record, but it's not my fault. Okay, it's not my fault. And what's hilarious is that he's still up to his old tricks. And so I wanna share this. This is the opening to this man's channel. Right? It's his opening to the channel. So I want to share this with you.
Hi, and welcome to Passion for Truth Ministries. I'm Jim Staley, and welcome to our new YouTube channel. This channel is the third new channel that we've had due to big tech censorship, but that's okay.
This is the third channel we've had because we've had our others taken down for the crap that we've been saying. And that's what it reads to me. Big tech censorship. Yeah, he like the man has gone to prison. He still hasn't learnt anything, lost 3 channels because he can't abide by terms and conditions. Like seriously, YouTube terms and conditions, it's not hard. It's not hard. Big tech censorship. Anytime I'm hearing big tech censorship, it's sort of like, oh, what did you do? What did you do? Like seriously, you go into an agreement with a platform in order to be able to talk about, do things on their channel. They are the owner of that channel. You make an agreement with them, or you go to one with a different agreement. I don't see why you should be able to dictate to a company how you're going to use their services. Like, oh, I'm going to use it for this purpose. It's their service. They're the carrier. It's very strange. And I don't know. And so at a certain point, we've got to start talking about ban evasion on YouTube. I think it's a conversation that we have to have. Like, how is it that these people breach terms and services and they basically get their channels closed down and they just start another one up? Like, I understand that, hey, it is a hit, sort of losing all of your subscribers, but they just move on. Like, they take a hit, but they're just back doing exactly the same thing next time. An argument can be made that, hey, it's punitive. They definitely do suffer some kind of loss, or else, Staley here wouldn't be bleating on about it in his introduction video for big tech censorship. But, I really think that if you're on your third channel, you probably shouldn't have a channel. I'm sorry, Staley. If you've gone through 2 channels already and you're onto your third, you probably should be banned off of YouTube entirely, because you obviously cannot keep to the community terms and service or the community guidelines that YouTube requires you to do. Oh, boy.
Okay, because we believe that the word of God can never be pushed down for long. It will always come back stronger and wider and deeper and more powerful and inspiring than ever before.
Yeah, and this is preying on Christians, basically saying, "Hey, don't pay attention that I've been taken down because of the awful things that I've said. You know, it's just in God's plan for us to come back. No, it's just because He wants to make more money. This is a con artist, in my opinion. He is an absolute con artist."
Speaking of inspiring, I pray that the content on this channel inspires you, challenges you, helps you grow to where the Father wants you to be to reach your full potential in Him. As a Hebraic Torah teacher, the front of the book, as I like to call it, is...
Does that involve going to prison, Staley? Does that involve going to prison? Because apparently that was a higher learning center for you. You know, it's weird because I think Hovind's worse, but this guy's way more inventive with the terms that he uses. Like prison is a higher learning center. His fraud was sort of a misunderstanding perpetrated by the parent company that you know the way this guy's massaging words. You know, Hovind wishes he had this way with words, like that he sort of can recategorize his stuff as this. What a con artist.
Is really important to us, as well as the back of the book. So the Old Testament and the New Testament, we believe, fit together as one. I believe that the New Testament is simply the Old Testament revealed, and I believe that the Old Testament...
That is so not true. That is so much not true. Like that is absolutely not true. I gotta highlight Bubba Sweat here though. That's great. In all fairness, prison is a higher learning center if you want to major in being a criminal. Yeah, and Staley he has taken it pro. He really has taken it pro. You know, YouTube flags aside, he's taking it pro.
Testament is simply the New Testament concealed. And so we spend a lot of...
Yeah, so the New Testament is contained in the Old Testament. That is so not true. And this man claims to have a supernatural revelation of Hebraic text.
Time uncovering all the golden nuggets that are found in the original language, the culture, the context, the idiomatic expressions, so that we can better understand what the Bible's actually saying, so that we can do what I like to say, Bible things in Bible ways, and call Bible things by Bible names. And so if marriage is something that's important to you, check out our Shalom in the Home series. If you want to grow closer to your...
Well, my marriage is important to me, but you know, I don't other people's marriages aren't. That's their affair. Like the problem is that you're sort of going, okay, you know, and this guy is big on, well, marriages between man and woman, says so in the Bible, etc., etc., etc. So you know, sort of against gay rights, against human rights, basically. Look, I don't care about other people's marriages. I've got my own marriage. I love my wife. She might actually appear on the channel with me at some point, so keep your eyes open for that one. She said that she might be amenable to appearing in a video. So you might actually meet my lovely wife, who I love more than just about any person in this world. And you know, it's kind of, but so if that's my marriage and there's two guys and they love each other more than anybody else in the world, why should I determine what they can and can't do? Who am I to say that they may feel love more than I do? I don't know. How do I know that? And I'm not convinced that a God is sort of handing down this regulation. Look, love is love. Love is love. It doesn't matter who you're in love with. That's fine. As long as it's two consenting adults, it's fine. I don't say, hey, you cannot get married. And there's sort of statutes to say, hey, you have to be mature and able to make the decision. In my country, it's usually 18, that you can make the decision that you want to get a legal marriage to somebody. Your Bible has nothing to do with it, like nothing to do with it. You know, but marriage is important to me, but yeah.
Your Father on a daily basis, take a look at our Repentance and the Month of Elul series. It's a 29-day.
Well, yeah. So don't forget, like, don't forget, you know, man between his property. Yeah, it says in the Holy Bible. Sure. No, I get that, but he says that the New Testament is concealed in the Old Testament. So in actual fact, the Old Testament wasn't saying that at all. It was concealed in there. So if you open up the bushes of the Old Testament, Jesus pops out and goes, ta-da, joking, gotcha. Instead of, the years and years and eras of not understanding fully what it means to have sort of a marriage contract.
Day series that will energize you back to where you need to be. And if you really want a complete world-changing message that will inspire,
I mean, yeah, I got you. I think that so I think that there's certain marriages that they crack down on, like marriages that are trying to get people into the country and things like that. I think there is an underlying idea that a marriage is some kind of relationship between two people, like a relationship on a level that's not just very good friends or something. And I get marriages of convenience and stuff like that. But I think, I could be wrong, but I think marriage is, an idea that those two people are closer than just, living together and for financial reasons. But if marriage was a civil contract, would I have a great big problem with it? No, that's up to you. That's entirely up to the people. I don't think I'd have a problem with it at all. I don't. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Yeah.
inspire you and ignite a fire like never before, and you've not seen Identity Crisis.
No. Look, you've already gone to prison for fraud. Don't add arson to your list. No fires, please. No. Do you think he was the top or the bottom in jail? I'm sorry. He probably went to financial person's jail. It's probably not as bad as
Crisis. I encourage you to watch Identity Crisis and Truth of Tradition. You can't unhear and unsee what you will see and what you will hear in those teachings. But for now, I will see you later in some of the other videos. You can stay in contact with us on Rumble, on Facebook.
On Rumble, yeah. I always worry when someone's promoting Rumble. It is always a bit of a worry when they're like, oh, we're on Rumble, go over to Rumble. Yeah, you want to say stuff that YouTube won't be happy that you're saying, i.e. bigotry and prejudice. Probably. Either that or, because the court basically said you're a sovereign citizen, or at least a states' right person. The federal government has no right to indict. The state found me to be not criminally culpable. It couldn't be a crime. No, there's state statutes and there's federal statutes, dude. Like, what are you talking about? But it's amazing that the people that have problems with federal statutes are always the ones committing federal crimes. It's amazing. The overlap is incredible. I don't know why that is. Must just be coincidence, right?
Facebook, you can go directly to our website, and I encourage you to do that right now. Go to passionfortruth.com. That's passionfortruth.com, and sign up for our newsletter so that we have your contact information just in case this channel gets shut down again. You'll be able to know.
Yeah. Because we're going to say things we know we shouldn't be on this carrier. So sign up for our newsletter so you'll know where the new channel is, so we don't lose subscribers. And that's why I said we've got to have a conversation about serial reoffenders on YouTube. It has to be a conversation that we'll have. I might have an open room about it. It's dangerous to do because you're talking about people, but I think it has to be done. That what do we do about these people, and what can YouTube do about these people? Maybe I should email YouTube and see if a response comes. Because this is some guy saying, hey, here's a way to circumvent my ban off of YouTube. Sign up for the newsletter, and then I'll tell you where I am, where my new channel is.
Exactly what we're doing and what we're up to. Until then, may the Father bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you. May his countenance be lifted up over you. And may he give you shalom.
Yeah, and ironically, passion for truth. Yeah. um, which is hilarious, which is just hilarious. You know, I think that the one thing that I've really noticed in my journey through all of this is that creationists, especially young Earth creationists, they're immune. They're immune to irony. They are absolutely immune to irony. You know, like they've gotten that they do not see the irony in a guy convicted of fraud, basically calling his ministry passion for truth. They don't see the irony. And I don't know why. You know, it'd be like it'd be like you know, Monsanto or somebody else convicted of poisoning people, um, you know, calling themselves purity chemicals. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's so on the nose. It is so on the nose. Yeah, and yeah, I agree with Andrew. That's right, Boo. But like seriously, YouTube. Um, you know, I think the worst one I saw was probably was it Sniper Wolf? I think who doxed that guy. So I'll find this because this is a good aside. Um, Yeah, so there was a guy called Jack's Films, and Jack's Films basically made critical videos about a lot of these YouTubers who watched videos and didn't add their own content. So stuff like I'm doing at the moment, it's protected under fair use, right? So I can use stuff as long as I am providing commentary, context, and changing the textual content of the thing. So we're not here to see the preaching of Jim Staley. I'm here to provide context, criticism, and commentary on that subject matter. And under fair use, that's protected. Now, there's a few guidelines to how you should do it, but generally, if you are using medium to critique or comment, which is what I do, you can't be done for fair use violations. But and I think H2 Bomber Guy did an amazing video on this. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch it, calling out people that don't actually provide commentary, but rather just watch stuff and they don't really do anything for it. They just basically and even to say they react is generous. Like, and Sniper Wolf is one of those people. She just goes, wow, to watching shorts or short videos, and just goes, oh, that's amazing. And oh, that's a big rock, you know, and that's about it's not transformative. It's not it's not actually providing commentary or criticism. It is just bare effort watching something and, you know, broadcasting it to people. So, which, you know, I think there's a fine line between reaction stuff and, you know, being transformative content. I think there's a fine line because I'm aware that there's people that do reactions that people tune in to see their reactions, kind of thing. Like they will watch a film and they will react to it, and people are actually tuning in to see what they say and how they react. It's a bit different than watching it, but it is a very fine line, because if you are just sitting there and going, oh wow, oh that's awesome, oh whoops, he got hurt, you know, I think that is not transformative. It just is. It's like just watching the same thing with a friend. I don't know. I find it very, very lazy. You can at least provide, and I think that the people on firmer ground are the people that are actually, you know, afterwards doing some kind of critique, or you know, talking about what they saw in the, you know, the movie or whatever they're watching, the YouTube video, and talking about it and saying, hey, here is the context. This is what I got from it. You know, I liked this about it because of these reasons. If they're actually doing commentary and criticism, or not even criticism, they're just basically doing review, I think it's fine. But Sniper Wolf was one that just did very, very poor reactions. So a guy called Jack's Film, and I've gone on a wild tangent here, but I'll get to it. I'll bring it back round. I swear. So Sniper Wolf basically did these bare minimum reactions kind of thing, and Jack's Films did reactions of her reacting, right? So he was very critical, did some criticisms of her work, then sort of pointed out where she was not even doing a bare minimum effort. She wasn't reviewing anything. She didn't have anything presented. She was just doing almost nothing and getting millions of views. And so he started reacting to her videos, just basically going, when she went, wow, he would just go, oh, wow, to her going, oh, wow, which is genius. It's such good parody. And I'm not sure if she put in any copyright strikes for him, which would have been so delicious irony. It would have been incredible. But she got into Twitter arguments with him. But eventually she rocked up at his house, right, on live streaming it, rocked up on his house to have a conversation. So she had his house on camera and she went to his house. So she showed his house live, which is doxing, and it violates YouTube's terms and conditions so badly. But she did not get punished by being completely removed. YouTube, I think, was very, very, very hesitant to remove her, right? And she's still on YouTube, 30-something million subscribers. She needs to have her account stopped. That person, if they are willing to go, and her apology read like something off ChatGPT. Her apology was so ChatGPT created, it's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. This isn't acceptable on YouTube. So someone like this, and I'll tie it back into what we're watching, somebody who's working on their third channel because the other two have been removed for breaches of terms of service, or even the YouTube community guidelines, which you agree to follow when you sign up for the account. If you're working on your third channel, or like Hovend, you've got another channel because your first one's been closed down for that kind of thing, you've got to quit. You've got to say, hey, we've got to have a conversation about why these people just switch channels and can continue doing the things that they're doing. Because, he's saying, hey, sign up for our newsletter, so if we get taken down, you'll know where to find us. How are you not circumventing the ban that you know's coming for the stuff that you're doing? And that's the thing about fraudsters. They don't consider, when they sign up for a terms and conditions, they just go, yeah, I don't have to follow these. Whereas the rest of us content creators who are doing the right thing say, hey, I've read the terms and service. I've read the YouTube community guidelines. I know what's within it and I know what's out of it. I know what I can't say and what I can. And I don't think it's a problem that YouTube is not providing the guidelines that they should be. They're doing the right thing. They're providing a series of guidelines that protect people and help people. I really do believe that. The problem is enforcement, and that people will just breach them all over the place and there's very little consequences. I think that's the problem. But yeah. So that's my opinion, though. I think that as far as YouTube is concerned, it's very difficult. I mean, there's so many people on it. There's so many people breaching it. It's very hard to police. But I think that we've got to have some kind of system for that. And there's a few things I'm working on. I'm probably going to start up things like a Discord where we can all come together. I've had a private Discord for a while, but I'm thinking of having like a report a scumbag on the Discord, like where we can all report people and maybe get attention paid to, an egregious creator who is, say, doing hate speech. like that if we all report it, it might be a good thing. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But it's an idea that I've had. Let me know. Send me something in the comments saying, "Hey, it's a terrible idea," and Mark, you're absolutely crazy, and you're an idealist who will. Well, I'm not an idealist, but you're too idealistic, and this will never work. Well, yeah, but we don't. Yeah, no, totally, Jeff. I agree, but I don't think Google realized the amount of resources they needed for it. And I get that. So I'm working on my Discord at the moment. It might be a little bare bones, but I am slowly getting it up to a point. I've added bots, so that is in the works. I've basically been browbeaten by Peter to do that, who browbeat me into starting the channel. So you can thank him for that one too. Yeah. Yes and no, Booba Sweat. It basically it depends on the agreement and how so what it depends on is basically, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but Apple's EULA is because basically how rigorous of steps you have to go through to sign up for it, right? So if it's just a list of agreement and you can just click, "Oh, I agree," and that's it, and it's for very, very whatchamacallit, just it doesn't have a lot of impact on your life. Like, it's just like you're trying to download something, it says EULA, and you just click the OK and hit it. Yeah, that's usually non-binding, but it all depends on how much you have to go through to sign up and how significant is that sign up. So I think monetization on YouTube is a bit more binding than that, because you have to go through a series of steps and compliance steps from YouTube. So I think it is way more binding. Yes, but yes, people skip limbs, and that has been done. Yes. For most stuff, that is, very easy to skip, but it all depends on the ease it is to skip it, and sort of how long it is, and how impactful it is. There's a lot more to that than just EULAs don't matter anymore. There's a lot more to it than that, Boober. So you're not wrong with Apple's one, because that was found, hey, in order to download this app where you're not particularly invested in, you're just getting an app, most people will just scroll through and do accept. But there's other stuff where basically it says, I have read the terms of service, and you got to tick a box. I have read the YouTube community contract and tick a box, and they're a bit more binding than that. So it depends on a lot of different factors. But you're not wrong. Some EULAs aren't worth the bits that they're printed with. Basically, the bits. Yeah. Okay. So this is hilarious, and I love it. And this guy is sort of put it to 1.5. Look, if it's too fast, please do let me know. He's kind of a very slow talker, so that's okay. But this is hilarious. This is his prison apology on his channel. So yeah, he's done a prison apology. So usually an apology will have a sorry in there somewhere. Not sure if this one does. Let's find the sorries in this, for violating the confidence of his elderly congregation and other people that he committed wire fraud on.
Hello, everyone. Jim Staley here, Passion for Truth Ministries. And as you can probably tell by the backdrop, we are not going to be doing a normal message today. This is not going to be the normal dig into the scriptures type of thing. This is going to be dig into my heart, dig into the past. And over the last...
Oh, we're digging into his heart. Okay. Look, I think, this guy has problems with being genuine. He's obviously reading off a teleprompter. That's not a kill, but listen for the music. Okay, so a lot of the time I'm paying attention to clips, and there's something called semiotics. If you're unfamiliar with semiotics, it's a fascinating concept. It basically translates as signs and signals, right? So a lot of the time there is like we will get stuff from something that is contextual or heuristical, like it'll be a shortcut, it'll be a symbol for something else, right? So a lot of the time when I'm looking at stuff, I'm looking at semiotics, like what signals and signs are they making? Like not what they're saying necessarily, but that's interesting too. But what are they signaling, right? So what we can take from this, a lot of the time you're open to semiotics when you're doing like studying film and studying, media in some way. And the very basic one is that colors are associated with certain things. Like for instance, red's associated with anger, blues associated with coldness and sort of a clinical unemotional feeling. White is associated with purity, black is associated with death and evil. So this all white set with the clock representing the passage of time, plant representing life, his iPad in his hand, which he's obviously not reading from, he's reading from a teleprompter. Why is it there? Why are those things there? Well, the iPad is probably because he wants to be known as a forward-thinking modern person. I don't know. I'm speculating, but a lot of this stuff won't be by accident. It will be semiotics. But listen to the music, because music is incredibly significant to our perception of things. Music, sound in general, a lot of it is, we get tone, we get stuff like that, but music can override sort of what we're feeling at the time. A lot of emotion is tied to music, as well as taste, actually, and smell.
Last several months, I would say the Father has really been working hard on me. And so what am I talking about? For those of you,
the Father has been working hard on you. Is that a euphemism for something? I need to know.
That are new, this video is probably not for you. But for those of you that were with us all the way back, and
we're new. This video is absolutely for us because we can see your lying ass. Like seriously, this is sort of him doing damage control. I want you to realize that. And if it wasn't, it would be a more genuine experience. It wouldn't have this music playing in the background. It wouldn't have, this white set with him with his iPad, which what do you need the iPad for? Like, why can't you put it down?
Back in PFT 1.0 days, that were shocked and perplexed that I got indicted by the federal government for wire fraud charges for a previous business that I was in before I was in full-time ministry. And you were left hurt and confused, disappointed, frustrated. This video is for you. This video is for those people, and even specifically for people that were part of my local congregation. I know that there's a lot of people online that even have already posted comments when I said I was going to do a video like this, that it was unnecessary, that I didn't need to do it. But I disagree. I think it's important that we clean house, that we clear all the bases, if you will, that we take the stuff out of the basement and just get rid of it. And far too long, I think all of us sometimes just want to, push things under the cover and just move on with life. Doing the right thing is hard. And right now we're in the...
No, I think he knows that this is going to come up. He knows that. So a lot of the time when people do these confessions, it's because they really have no choice. And I love, what, I just absolutely love your comments today, Booba Sweat. I love it. 3 out of 10, no ukulele. So that's in reference to, I can't remember the name of the girl, but she got found out doing horrible things, like with underage people. She was messaging them awful things that they should not have been messaging. And I don't know why she was even involved with them, to be honest with you. Right? The clock doesn't work. Right? So why is it there? Why is it there if it doesn't work? Okay. Semiotics, like time, it has passed. It's a signal. And some of this stuff looks really innocuous, but to somebody that's sort of watching it, it will play into these things. It's why they have stuff on set. It's why they have certain things going.
We're in the month of Elul on the Hebrew calendar. This is the month of Teshuvah. Teshuvah is all about repentance. And I just gave a teaching last weekend on the power of repentance and the 4 steps of repentance. And even as I did that, it struck me that the Holy Spirit really just convicted me that I need to do what I'm preaching. Like, I need to do this. There's people that were very hurt. And when I got out of prison several years ago, I really just kind of went straight into ministry. And the Lord really never gave me a green light to go public. And so
Yeah, so this is like this is a non-apology apology, because he's not saying, "Hey, I hurt these people," right? So when you're doing an apology to somebody, um, so a non-apology is something like, well, I'm sorry you're hurt by that, and that may be true. That may be true. I regret that what I did hurt you, kind of thing. Um, you may not have done anything wrong, but like your intention was not to cause that. And if it caused that, then you're sorry that it happened. Um, a real apology when you regret your actions is, I'm sorry I hurt you, right? I shouldn't have done that. And it's not like I'm sorry that you got hurt is useless. No, it can it's got a place there, because if you think that you haven't done anything wrong, somebody by some occurrence that wasn't your fault did get hurt by that, you can use that one. But you're not really apologizing for your actions. You still think what you did was not immoral, or not, you're fine doing it. This is one of those ones, right? Some people got hurt. Oh, how were they hurt? No, you hurt them, but that's not what you're saying. You're saying they just incidentally got hurt for some reason. Who knows why?
So I was so focused on what had happened to me that sometimes your blindness of just being so focused on others and the things that happened to you that were unjust, that you forget about what you did. And so I want to talk about that today. I want to share with you some mistakes that I made and make things right the best that I can. None of us can go back in time and take back things that we did. I know that there's certainly things in all of our lives that we wish we could take back, whether we say things that we don't mean in the moment or do things, but we just.
So do you think he's talking about the way that he convinced a whole load of old people that they would get a return on their investment, when he knew that return probably wasn't going to come? It was only if this bundle went well, when he convinced them, hey, and used his position as a pastor to convince them to invest in these insurance bundles that failed. Do you think maybe that's one of the things he did wrong?
We just can't. And I'm so grateful for the blood of Christ and for the grace that Yeshua gives us. And I know I'm at the top of the list of second chances and third chances and 3,000 chances, 300,000 chances that the Lord has given me. And so anyway, I want to go back in time and kind of tell you a little bit about the story of how things happen, and then move into a place where I would like to just confess before you the parts that I did do wrong. The Bible says that the wages of sin is death, and we're all guilty of that. And according to the scriptures, I don't deserve prison. I deserve death for a single sin. So,
well, I mean, I don't care what the Bible says. I don't think, sin and death, it doesn't, it's yeah. I don't know, but yeah.
I'm certainly not saying,
we're all sinners, is what he's saying. We're all bad. Don't look too harshly at me. We're all bad.
that I didn't deserve to go to prison. My clients that got deeply hurt by some of the decisions that I made, and I will be looking them right in the eye in this video, in this broadcast, and apologizing deeply.
You are not looking them right in the eye. That's the thing. When you say I'm looking them right in the eye, it means that you're face to face, and you're looking them right in the eye. You're not looking them right in the eye. You're looking at a camera. Like this is the kind of wordplay that he does. Because I'm sitting up here, do you think you could look them right in the eye? Probably not. Probably not.
To them. But let me start from the very beginning, so that for those of you that are unaware of what really happened to me, that quite honestly shaped me to be who I am today, in a very strange way. I'm very grateful for the pain and the suffering and the discipline that God gave me. But let me start at the beginning. So in 2007, so over 15 years ago, I know this is a long time ago, but it's important. And no matter how many times, how long things are, they're very fresh for people. The hurt is still always there. And so 15.
Yeah, and he made this 8 months ago. So it's quite likely that people started asking questions. Like, his YouTube channel has been around for a couple of years, or this third iteration has been around for a couple of years, and he made this 8 months ago, which means that somebody brought it up. He didn't start his YouTube channel and start out by doing this. He did it later.
15 years ago, I was a financial consultant, and I was in the annuity business for many years. I was very good at it, and made a lot of money.
No, you weren't just a consultant. You were running your own, you had your own business, and the name of that business was Wealth Financial International. You were an operator of that business. And then you became a sales agent for premium financing company located in California. Now, you weren't a salesperson for that company. You were running your own business and being an agent for them. That business was an agent for them. So this is sort of the conflation that he's doing.
A lot of money doing it, and I really didn't need to make more money. But I was on a top 50 list of insurance agents in the country, and I was constantly getting calls from other brokers wanting me to work for them. I got a call one day from a company out in California, and they offered me a job to add their product to my portfolio.
Yeah, that's not exactly. Yeah, that's not exactly the way. Like, they didn't offer you a job; they offered you an agreement, like an agent's agreement. You were working as an agent. I don't think he was employed by them. I could be wrong, but I don't think he was employed by them. I think his company, Wealth Financial International, was acting as an agent for this larger company, B&B. So I think that's sort of distorting it a little bit. I mean, it might be a very, very small thing, but the whole point is what he was doing, he was in charge of that. Because when a larger company says, hey, we'll use you as an agent, they're not sort of taking you as an employee and responsible for your behavior. They're just using you as an agent.
It was an existing product called premium financing, where wealthy people would sell their insurance policy and for a dollar amount, and then we would pay the person that would buy the insurance policy would pay the premiums on it until they passed away. And so they allowed the person to get cash for their policy. You might have seen their commercials, premium finance commercials on television. It's a very legitimate product. And it was available in 34 states, and it wasn't a security. But unfortunately, in the state of Missouri, when 2008 happened, and the largest stock market crash in U.S. history, the capital investors who funded and purchased our policies, their funding dried up. And so there was no one to buy the remaining policies in the company that I worked for. I was a sales manager, and they were stuck with millions of dollars of policies that they hadn't anybody to purchase them for. So it was a really, really bad timing for me to get into that business, because now we were stuck with all the.
Yeah, just for reference, the largest stock market crash was actually in '87. It was called Black Monday. It wasn't it wasn't in 2000, and I mean, there was a 2008 financial crisis, but I mean, crashes do happen. The problem is that you were guaranteeing returns on something that should not have been guaranteed. That's the problem. That's fraud.
With all these policies, and it was my responsibility as a sales manager to make more sales to pay the premium.
He wasn't a sales manager. His company was an agent for B&B. He was the one in charge. Like, he kind of is trying to frame this thing as, well, I was just a manager and I was told how to. No, that isn't the case.
On these policies, and you can see where it went. Eventually, the state of Missouri did an investigation just to see if it was a security or not, and they had come back and determined that, unlike the other 34 states who did not think it was a security, Missouri had the right to decide that it was a security, and so they filed a judgment against me that for selling a security without a license.
No, they put it to the federal government. It wasn't like, yeah.
They found no criminal intent at all. The judgment was to pay my commissions back. I had made $375,000 over a 3-year period with that company, and so I was beginning the process of paying my clients back a little bit at a time each month. I paid exactly what the state told me to pay. 4 years later, I got indicted by the federal government on wire fraud charge.
Yeah. So here's what really happens. The state basically finds that you didn't have a criminal intent, but you still did something wrong. You're still liable for that. At least in my opinion, that's probably what happened. And then they kick it up to federal, and you've violated some federal statutes. It's not a case of, oh, well, if the state says this, then I'm fine by the federal statutes. That's not how it works, right? You don't have an exclusive oh, well, if I didn't break any state laws, then the federal laws don't apply to me. That's not how it works.
Charges and basically intentional fraud. This was a shock to me because I thought the state had already said that I was not guilty of any criminal intent. And come to find out, the federal government didn't even know that there was a state investigation, and they had no idea that the product was already been made legitimate by the Securities Exchange Commission of the state of Missouri. And so, without getting too far into the weeds, all that to say, it was a mess. And once you're indicted, there's really kind of no way out of that web.
Well, yeah, by intention. If you're indicted, you have to be, go through the legal process. What are you talking? There's no way out of that web. It's very weird to sort of have somebody like sort of calling the laws a web. Like, it's not like Missouri didn't find you liable for what you'd done, and the federal government believed that you had defrauded people in through wire fraud. So they had obviously got evidence that you had intentionally lied to elderly people in order to tell them that your securities that you were selling were guaranteed when they were in no way guaranteed.
So I did plead guilty to intentional wire fraud from the book's perspective, not from a biblical perspective, but from their very, very technical definition. I did plead guilty.
So listen to what he's saying. I plead guilty, not from a biblical perspective, but from a court's perspective, their very technical definition. Oh, all these technical laws. So he was basically fined to pay back all of his commission by the state of Missouri. The federal government came in because they may have got complaints from some of these people that they were defrauded. They would have presented the evidence that they have that say, hey, we've indicted you and we have this evidence to say that you did misrepresent your product in order to sell and get commission on this product. It wasn't guaranteed. They went belly up, and people have been defrauded through your actions. They might have had emails. I don't know, but they might have had emails. They might have had, some other correspondence. They might have had where he's presented, this portfolio to people, and it minimizes the risks or says there are no risks. One of the two or something like that. They may have. He pleads guilty, and then says, "But I'm not guilty, really." I mean, that is the fraudster's bread and butter, especially the pastor that goes, "Oh, well, I pled guilty, but I'm not guilty in a religious sense. God still thinks I'm innocent." Absolutely ridiculous.
Right or wrong or indifferent, it was a very difficult decision. I was told that if I went to trial, that I would likely get 20 years in prison. And so my attorney at the time said that, Jim, I know it's going to be difficult for you to plead guilty based on your faith, but could you plead guilty to just the technical definition, and knowing that between you and your God and your faith, that you did not intend to hurt anyone?
Yeah, well, it's not so much like, so here's the thing. When you say intend to hurt anyone, your intention may have been to get these people a good return. Like, so stock market crashes, it's very strange because financial advisors, especially financial advisors working as pastors for some reason, basically your intention may be to get these people a great return. But if you misrepresent the product, it doesn't matter what your intention is. You have committed fraud by not appraising your clients of the risks of what they're investing in. That is the reason. And you might say, oh, it's technical. I didn't intend to do that. But that's what you did. That's exactly what you did.
And with tears in my eyes, literally bawling, quite frankly, in his office, I chose to plead guilty to the government's technical definition. And then I was going to explain to everybody what happened. But I had no idea that I was going to be under a gag order, and I was not going to be able to talk about my case at all. And so I left people.
Well, yeah, Boober Sweat, someone could definitely put in a complaint about that. But I mean, I think that it does happen that the especially sort of public lawyers, like ones that have been assigned to a case, they may encourage them to plead guilty based upon the evidence. I think that does happen, but I don't see a federal indictment, even the feds bringing that without some kind of evidence. And it's not like, if the lawyer says, hey, I think you'll get 20 years if you actually fight this, they probably were speaking the truth. Like the feds had some sort of evidence that was a smoking gun or something that really made him look like he did misrepresent the product, the insurance bundles that he was selling. And, the fact that you did it against retired people who are vulnerable, the fact that you're a pastor and you preyed on people's trust of you. And it may have been that part of that, because it seems to suggest from these Christian news articles, I don't know if this is the case, but they seem to suggest that he used his position as a pastor to convince people to buy his portfolio. So just think about the disgustingness of that. People trust you because you're a pastor. People trust you implicitly. They think that you're a fantastic person because you're their pastor. You've always guided them correctly. You have the word of God. In fact, this guy, as we saw earlier, claims to have a supernatural experience that gives him the ability to understand the Bible Hebraically better than anybody else. That's what he claims. And you use that position to say, hey, God believes in me, buy these stonks, this insurance bundle that is guaranteed. That is something that, when that's presented to the judge, he's going to come down like a ton of bricks. Like a ton of bricks. So, of course, he pled guilty.
People very hurt, looking back, very confused, because I had told people that I was innocent from intentionally defrauding my clients of the past, which I would never do. It's just not in my character to do that. It was a legitimate product. I believed in it deeply, but I made a lot of mistakes.
It doesn't matter if you believe in it deeply. It matters if you misrepresented that to your clients. That's what matters. Like, here's the thing. Like, doctors can't just tell you, oh, well, you have this surgery. There's no chance of anything going wrong. It'll be perfect. Doctors aren't allowed to do that. And people who have fiduciary responsibilities aren't allowed to say, hey, this is a guaranteed product with no risk whatsoever. They're not allowed to say that for good reason, because they're misrepresenting the risks of their products. If you've ever had a reputable financial advisor, they will go from very low risk to, very high risk. There's almost nothing that's no risk, right? When you're investing, there is always risk. The housing market was seen as incredibly low risk, and then it collapsed. It doesn't mean it can't happen, but you have to be upfront and, okay with it. Well, I don't believe that I did anything wrong. It's so, like, the con artist is at work here. The con artist is at work. And you can tell by his language. It's not, I hurt people. It is, people got hurt. For some reason, we don't know. Because I always said I was innocent. Yeah, I bet you did. But it's one thing, as Donald Trump is finding out, it's one thing to say to people and out in the real world, oh, I'm innocent and innocent and innocent. It's another thing to sit in court, be confronted by the evidence, and say I'm innocent, and actually put in that plea. Those are two separate things. And Trump is currently finding out that you can say all kinds of things to your people about your innocence. It's a lot harder to do to sit in court and have the state present why they don't think that you're innocent. A lot harder to do. Yeah, exactly, Luna. Passive voice. Yeah. Had nothing to do with me. They just got hurt. Hello. There we go.
Mistakes along the way. I'm going to talk about those in a few minutes. But I did not intentionally set out. It wasn't even my company. I was the only one that was indicted. The owners weren't indicted on my case.
Yeah, as I've said, like you were the you operated Wealth Financial Institution, and that is from the United States Attorney Office, District of Missouri. You became a sales agent for them. So, you know, when you've hired an agent, they cannot be responsible for you misrepresenting their product. They can't. They can't. Like, that's why they didn't find the owners. The owners probably weren't misrepresenting the risks on these packages. They were probably saying, hey, these are medium risk packages or high risk packages. I don't know what they are, but they're probably saying, hey, you know, if nobody buys these products are not guaranteed. So there is a possibility you can lose money by investing on them if we can't find the buyers for them. You weren't doing that. You weren't doing that. So, you know, this is sort of a, oh, I'm the victim here. I'm the one being, and this is an apology, right? This is an apology to people. It's like, well, I'm sorry that I was unfairly convicted. Ridiculous.
None of the other salesmen were indicted on my case. They put another salesman's $1.1 million on my case. He did not get indicted. All the owner's commissions they put on my case, $2 million from the insurance companies put on my case. Even the insurance companies have given back over $1 million to my clients, admitting liability in the case, saying that they should have never done it to begin with. But it is what it is. And
yeah, that they probably felt liable because you were their agent. Wow. But just you know, this is his apology video. Just well, it wasn't my fault, and nobody else got, you know, tagged for it.
And I've learned to live with that. Looking back, I made a lot of mistakes. Not only did me going to prison completely hurt people that trusted me, their only source of information was the paper, the news, what the government was saying about me, and not realizing the process, or that an indictment is not a finding of fact. They're just accusations that are to be fleshed out in trial, but we never went to trial. And it was a very, very difficult situation.
You pled guilty. The reason why you never went to trial is you pled guilty. You said, yes, I did this thing. And you're trying to frame it as, oh, well, the lawyer told me to do it because she said I'd get 20 years. But you could have, you know, it never went. Like, you can't then say, oh, well, indictment is just a you know, accusation, and it never went to court. So, you know, I'm off. No, you pled guilty to that indictment.
Situation. But I will tell you, it was more difficult in some ways for my clients. Like, my clients trusted me. And if for any reason, any of my clients watch this.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and you're expecting people to trust you again. You're up to your old con jobs. You've been 3 times. Is your 3rd run around on YouTube. You've done all of this stuff. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, he just expects. It's the old con artist thing of, oh yes, I've done wrong in the past, but trust me now, because I'm telling you, I've made mistakes. I'm telling you, I'm a changed man.
This. I want you to know that I am deeply, deeply sorry for letting you down and for the choices that I made. I should not have put all of your money into this product. There were clients of mine that put all of their retirement into this product and lost it all.
Yeah, correct, Andrew. He doesn't take responsibility. He blames the products. He blames, you know, putting money into the products. He doesn't say, hey, I misrepresented what these were.
Some of them to their own desire to put all their money into it because they weren't happy with their other investments. And some of them, quite frankly, I talked them into it, and it was irresponsible of me to do that. Looking back.
There you go. I talked them into it, and it was irresponsible of me to do that. But, you know, I feel like he's not like, okay, so usually an apology contains a sorry somewhere. Usually, like, sorry for what I have done. I'm not hearing a lot of it.
Looking back, I was not qualified to sell this product at the level that I was selling it. I believed in the product so much. I thought that it was going to be fantastic. It had been great for decades. And I realized that now, looking back, that it was a horrible decision. And I was putting myself first. I was not satisfied with what God had given me financially. I was looking for more, thought this was a great product, and I mishandled it. And I trusted the company that I worked for, and I used very poor discernment and judgment in how I handled that product. And on that note, it's important that you know that I'm doing the very best that I can to pay back as much as I possibly can to my clients each and every month, to do my best to give back to my clients as much as I possibly can. When the state of Missouri, for instance, gave me a cease and desist. My attorney at the time, and this is my fault for listening to my attorney, but my attorney told me that this was not a security, that they did not have the right to give me a cease and desist. And she considered this a loan, and she told me that just ignore this, and because she's going to get it squashed. So she was very confident she was going to get this order quashed. Well, I continued to sell the product, and I was happy to do so, because if I would not have continued to sell the product, all of the policies would have collapsed immediately, because we wouldn't have had any money to pay the premium.
So yeah, like he got a cease and desist from the government, and he claims his lawyer said, "Ignore it. I will get this quashed." Ignore it. Yeah, that's what it's like. Blame the attorney. Yeah. Sure, blame your attorney.
Paid premiums. So I was told by the owners of the company that we were in a critical situation. If I didn't continue to sell, then everything would fall apart. So they sent me a second one, and then I ceased immediately after that. That was a very bad move on my part. I can't even blame it on my attorney. I should know better to do that. But I was very young, 15 years ago. I was in my 30s, and I just was caught between a rock and a hard place. And
oh yeah, you were very young, 30s. You don't know anything at 30. What's the law at 30? I don't know. You receive a cease and desist, and it just means nothing. It just means nothing.
It was just very wrong of me to do that. And man, there's so many things that I regret. I fell into the typical salesman attitude of focusing too much on the positives, not enough on the negatives or the risks. And that not only hurt my clients, but it hurt many of you that were out there. There were many people that came into Torah through our ministry, and many congregations were started. I've since then talked to some of the leaders of congregations around the country that were just utterly dumbfounded. And again, the only information they had was from the government. And because I never went public with anything. For many years, I've been wanting to go.
Yeah, why didn't you go public with anything? It's because you pled guilty to fraud. But this is the thing. He's instead of saying, hey, I've broken these people's trust, he's still spinning the story. He's still spinning, like, these frauds, they can't help it. They've got to spin.
Been wanting to go public and talk about my case, and for lots of reasons, mainly pride and not truly being concerned about you, but being more concerned about my reputation. The Lord told me no, and I'm going to give you an example right now. I was in my bunk one night, and I had enough, and so I had a plan that I was going to do. And I told the Lord, it was like 2-something in the morning, probably 2:22, and I told the Lord, I'm not asking your permission. I'm going to do this, and if you don't want me to, you're going to have to stop me. And I went to bed that night. I've never talked to the Lord like that before or after. Praise God for grace, because I was pretty upset. And I woke up in the morning, and the Lord immediately, the Holy Spirit's voice said, the answer's in your email. So I immediately got dressed, went up to the computer.
God communicates a lot by email. Could you get him to send me an email? Do I get emails from God? Is God got a public email address I can send stuff to? Is this what's happened? Like, seriously, dude.
Computer lab, and opened up my email, and what did I see was an email from my Russian translator, who at 2-something in the morning had an open vision where she woke up. She said she sat up in bed and her whole room turned into like Narnia. It was a whole nother world. And she said that she saw.
Oh, it's Narnia now. Oh, well, I'm sorry I doubted you in the past, that you're a complete liar. But, you add Narnia, it just becomes so much more believable. Was Aslan the lion prancing over the golden fields of Narnia?
That she saw me in my green khakis, which was my green uniform in prison, and a vulture came, and it came down on your right arm. And the vulture was looking you up and down. And she said, Pastor, it was looking you up and down. And I heard the voice of the Spirit say, if he moves, I will give permission to the vulture to consume any part of him that moves. Tell him to, all caps, stay dead. What I'm doing is bigger than him. I immediately was broken. I started crying, and I did not get an email from my Russian translator. For me, it was an email straight from God, because she did not know what I had prayed. Only God knew. And God sent me an email telling me to shut up, sit down, and swallow your pride, because what I'm about to do is...
Oh, this is such a load of bollocks. Like, seriously. Dated. Well, I didn't break out of jail and leap the wall because God told me to. Ugh. Yeah, I think I'm done with this apology, quite frankly. There's no apology anywhere in this. And do you notice like it's turned into him? Like, it's about him, right? It's about my trip. Like, what kind of an apology has this? Well, I've found God now, and I got this vision from God. This is an apology for him doing wrong, turns into, well, I'm chosen by God. Seriously. Like, it's just, you can always tell this kind of people with narcissistic tendencies. You know, and I want to sort of highlight the parallel with Hovind kind of thing, because it reminds me a lot of him. Like, he'll say, oh, well, I've got an apology to make, and then it'll turn into something about, you know, him. It'll turn into sort of well, but I am chosen and special, and I have all its great things and all these things that I'm doing. Right? That's always what it turns into. And so I want to share with you another start. I'll just do the very start. It's kind of a long video, but I'll do the very start. So this guy recently.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to what's about to happen on April 8th of 2024. It might have incredible implications for your life. First of all, CERN is going to be starting up their Hadron Collider to collide two atoms.
Oh no, CERN's going to collide two atoms. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I mean, it's designed to do exactly that. What are we going to do? Two atoms collide. It's the end of the world.
To produce what they're looking for, called the God particle. Not only that.
Yeah, so the Higgs boson, what they call the God particle, is basically, supposedly, theoretically, it's the particle that gives things mass. So it's only a name for it. It's
not only that, NASA is launching rockets into the eclipse, and they call the mission after an Egyptian serpent deity. The cicadas are coming by the billions, first time since we've seen them since 1803, covering a large swath of the United States of America.
About a month ago, so April. This is the eclipse, right? So this is what I found out. No. This is April. This is April, so a month ago.
America, red heifers are about to be sacrificed in Israel for the first time in thousands of years, setting the pages of prophecy on fire. There's a massive solar eclipse coming across the United States, forming an X marks the spot in southern Illinois. That's got to be prophetic. Not only that, we've got wars. And
that's got to be prophetic. Why? Why exactly? Why is it prophetic? Where was the prophecy? That's got to be prophetic. What? Why? But it's got to be.
Wars and rumors of wars and more that we're going to talk about in this broadcast right after this. Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Staley with Passion for Truth Ministries, and this video is critical. There are so many, very first time, a video about the solar eclipses that I did just a couple of weeks ago. That video has skyrocketed to be the most watched video on the internet with over 3 million views.
Yeah, 3 million views is not the most watched video on the internet. Like, this is the salesman stuff that he does. I think they did keep a list of the most watched video. Yeah, so Baby Shark Dance by Ping Fong has 13.48 billion views. Right? Billion views. 13.8 billion. But this is, this is the fraudster in action. If you're saying, hey, I got 3.3 million views, it's the most watched on the internet, is it any wonder that you got done for fraud? You're misrepresenting your video.
Views in just 14 days. If you have not seen that video, it really will open your eyes to God's prophetic feast days, his prophetic calendar, and why he keeps doing things on what we call today the Jewish calendar, but in reality, it's the biblical calendar that he holds to. So in this broadcast, we're going to dive into more things that I've discovered, the things that have been highlighted to me that's going to happen this April around the time of Passover, and specifically April 8th on the solar eclipse day, is just downright amazing. And so we're going to talk about that, which is extraordinarily difficult. It's like,
yeah. So he's talking about what's going to happen on April 8th.
With fire. Okay, we know how the end of the world ends according to the book of Revelation and the prophets. And Shiva is the god. There's so much in it. I encourage you to go look at just Shiva and all the prophetic symbolism of what that goddess looks like and what she's doing right here represents. But this is outside of CERN. And listen to this. This is a plaque that's right next to the statue. This is what it says. Now, for those that just believe all this is just given by the Indian government, okay, if so, why is these words on this plaque? Quote, thousands of years ago, Indian artists made the image of the Lord Shiva absorbed in the dance from the copper chain. Today, in our time, all physical scientists are again using advanced technologies to create the format of cosmic dance. At present, scientists theorize of a cosmic dance actually stands on the foundation of ancient myths, religion, art, and physics. Modern physics tells us that the process of creation and cataclysm is not just linked to the beginning and end of life in the universe, but to the particles of the whole creation.
Yeah, the Indian government did that because they support Hinduism. I don't. Right, it's just, wow. What are you trying to get out of this?
In other words, ladies and gentlemen, this was quoted by a top scientist on a plaque right next to the Shiva statue that is validating that Shiva is the perfect representation of what we're doing. The particles dance on a microscopic level, and it's all connected to religion. It even says,
well, no, it's basically saying, hey, parts are created and destroyed. It's just sort of, it's making an analogy. I don't what
does it in there that religion, art, physics, all of these things are mixed together. They're all connected.
Yeah. So religion, as famously said, religion was our first attempt at science. It was also our first attempt at art. It was our first attempt at a lot of things. A lot of things. That doesn't mean that they're the same thing. Like, a religion has a foundation in a lot of stuff. It doesn't mean that they are those things, or that religion has some kind of purview over them. That's not the case.
This is where string theory comes from. They believe it's all connected. So this is incredible what's happening on April 8th. And that's just one component. Well, that's what I think anyway. But you tell me what you think right now, put from God.
I think you're full of crap. I think you are absolutely full of crap. I think you're a huckster and a trickster and a fraud. Literally. You've been convicted of wire fraud and you're back at it. And the fact that you get to have a YouTube channel and get 3.3 million views is just ridiculous. And it sort of speaks to the ways that a lot of people don't think critically about. But, if you are a con artist, a religion's not a bad place to find people that aren't thinking critically. It's not bad. A lot of people in religion don't think twice about things that they're told by, especially a pastor. So, the huckster's at it again.
From God in the comments if you believe the Hadron Collider is from God, or put from the devil if you believe that Satan is going to use this at the end of time. Let me know right now in the comments below.
Let me know in the comments below if you think that he is from the prison or if he is from the Lord. Put that in the comments, and you see him working the algorithm. Probably something I need to do more. But he's very accomplished at sort of getting engagement and getting people into this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just again talked about it, so I'm not going to go into great detail. I have a 33-minute video on the solar eclipses over America from 2017 and 2024 and the prophetic significance of those and the historical crazy things of war and earthquakes that happen. And again, I'm not trying to scare anyone. My job as a watchman on the wall, as a shepherd of the people of God, as a researcher, is to,
as an ex-felon who was convicted of insurance fraud,
let you know these are the things that are happening or about to happen. Maybe we should just keep an eye on these things. Maybe be prepared. There's nothing wrong with having extra food, extra gas in your car. As a matter of fact, state officials are now coming out across the United States and telling people, keep your kids out of school. Make sure that you have extra gas and extra food. For the first time in American history, we have a solar eclipse, and the state government is saying, hey, by the way, you might want to not keep your kids in school that day. You might want to have some extra food. Why are they telling us to have extra food and have extra gas in our car?
Because idiots like you are saying buy up all the gas and all the food and making a big deal out of it. It's because of religious crazy people, because they're acting like nutballs and it's the end of the world. Was it the end of the world? Let me see, as he says in May.
are, if nothing, they're not afraid of anything. When I was in school in third grade, I remember a solar eclipse. We came outside of my Catholic school. We looked at the solar eclipse. We went back in, probably had recess right after that. It was no big deal. But today, they don't want people in school. They want you to have extra food. After the god of darkness that swallows up Ra, the Horus of the enemy.
Yeah, he just goes.
So I just thought that was incredibly fascinating that over 120 years ago now, right? But Israel found out that there was so much pushback. We don't know how long it will be before a temple could either be built or they could do it in Shiloh, because that's currently where, along with red heifers being sacrificed, a Hadron Collider that is fixing to open up the time-space continuum, and all of the...
No, the Hadron Collider is not opening up the time-space continuum. What are you talking about?
This is happening on the same day. Now, I am the last conspiracy theory that's out there. I don't even...
It's not the same day. And he's absolutely doing conspiracy.
Hardly do videos like this because I'm a deep dive Bible teacher. It's what I do. I teach people how to live the Word of God from its original ancient perspective, removing itself from all the traditions and doctrines.
Okay, well, spoiler alert: the world didn't end. Like, just big spoiler, big spoiler. I'm really getting sick of this guy, but I love this video. I wanna share this video as well, and I'll just do the first bit of it. I do apologize, but this guy is he's terrible. He's absolutely, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Forgive me. People were hurt by my actions. Well, actually not by my actions. They were just hurt by what happened. I accidentally closed the screen and people were hurt by that happening to happen, but nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me.
What's the most important word in the Bible, do you think? What is the one word that defines everything from Genesis to
God? Jesus.
To Revelation? I believe that there's only one word from Genesis to Revelation that accurately defines exactly what God's relationship
Jesus. It's Jesus, isn't it? Someone tell me it's Jesus.
Is with us and ours with our fellow man. And that word, my friends, is covenant. So in this week's
what? No, not really. There was a bunch of covenants. Which one? Which one are we talking about here?
I'm going to describe for you and dive into the nuances of the ancient Middle Eastern covenant versus the modern day contract. They are polar opposites of one another. Get it wrong, and we radically misunderstand most of the Bible. After
contracts and covenants are not polar opposites. That they are not. A covenant is just a formal agreement. A contract is a binding written agreement. There's not, and it depends how you're using the words, but a covenant isn't the opposite of a contract.
Bible. After all, the Bible's written from a Old Covenant perspective and a New Covenant perspective. Misunderstand covenant, and we misunderstand the entire New Covenant. So join with me as we go into all the weeds on this. It will revolutionize your whole mind on the Bible, but more importantly, on your relationship with one another and your relationship with Him. There is a tremendous power in understanding the real covenant that's found in the Scriptures. I'm Jim Staley with Passion for Truth Ministries, and I'll see you there. Hello, everyone. Jim Staley, Passion for Truth Ministries, and welcome to today's broadcast. Wherever you may be found, whether you are in Canada or Mexico, South America, understanding of these two concepts will dictate how you live your life. So let's dive in and let's get an understanding from a biblical worldview of what covenants and contracts really are.
Yeah, does it surprise anybody that he's like trying to differentiate between an official contract and a covenant that's just an agreement? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I was in a covenant. I didn't have a contract, so the law doesn't apply to me. And this is the man that distinguishes, oh, well, I did nothing wrong biblically, but legally, technically, oh boy.
Are right after this.
Come on.
Hand corner and see how long I actually ended up going. But we're going to be talking about contracts and covenants, like I said, and we're going to start off with the word covenant. I want you to understand the biblical definition of covenant, because in today's Western Greco-Roman society or modern
Greco-Roman society, I've never heard the West referred to as a Greco-Roman society before. It's interesting. I'd probably say industrialized, European industrialized society, perhaps, but not Greco-Roman.
Society at large, We operate under contracts, legal contracts. We don't have really much of a concept of covenant, even though most of us that got married, the pastor at some point talked about a marriage covenant. That's kind of like in one ear and one out the other, right? We don't really.
The word covenant was never mentioned at my marriage. It never was. I don't know what he's talking about. Covenants, yeah, an archaic word, but people still use it. It just means a formal agreement between two parties, usually one that's not written and just a verbal formal agreement. It's usually a pact of some sort to either do something or don't do something. It's not sort of a word that's unknown in English. It's just, very, very seldom used.
We don't really take the time to understand what that means. What is an ancient covenant? And so, I believe it or not, I just want to kind of disclose something.
Well, a covenant's just an agreement. Like, they just used covenant because they didn't have a word for contract, because they didn't have a modern legal sense. Like, contract is a modern legal word. It's essentially the same thing. Essentially, it's just a formal agreement between two parties. It's just, usually a contract is referring to, a written statement. That's why you have the words verbal contract, because usually when you say contract, it means written. So you've got to add the qualifier of verbal to it.
Close something to you. I already completely recorded this video, and then the Lord interrupted it about 45 minutes in and had me completely change it all the way around. And so I was kind of going into the detailed part of the ancient covenants.
Oh, he's got the Lord as his producer. You heard it here first, folks. The Lord is coming down and telling him his content isn't suitable and how to change it. I would say you can't make this stuff up, but obviously you can make this stuff up because he's making this stuff up.
Covenants, and the Lord wants me to speak to you prophetically. There's some things that he wants to say about covenants and where people are at, his people are at right now.
So it's the chosen one. Did you know this guy was a prophet? Did anybody see that coming? The guy who's been sent to prison for wire fraud is actually claims to be a prophet. Color me unsurprised, and has talked before this video about the end of the world on April, which didn't happen.
Now, and I believe that what's going to come into this broadcast is going to be a special message just for you, just for the body of Messiah at large. And I'm not even 100% exactly sure what it's going to be. So stick around. Let's see what the Holy Spirit says. But first, let's lay the foundation.
You don't know what it's going to be. You really look like you're reading a teleprompter or some kind of script out. I mean, you're very, very good at it. You're very relaxed and are reading it out. But I swear, if we zoom in, we can probably see the teleprompter in your glasses there, or at least some kind of screen that you're reading off. Like, why? Like, I don't know what it's going to be because I didn't write this script. The Lord wrote this script, and I've got no idea what it says until I read it out.
The foundation, so it'll make sense of whatever he wants to say by talking about what this actually looks like. So let's go to the PowerPoint and dive into the covenant definition. So the word covenant, I thought this was interesting. In the Latin, it actually means coming together.
Sure.
That's pretty cool. That in the Latin, the word covenant means to come together. So in its fundamental simplistic form, covenant should bring the two parties together and not for a transaction. And we're going to.
Well, how'd you get not for a transaction? Well, it's not transactional as in one person gets something and another person gets something. It's just a covenant is basically an agreement to do something or not do something. That's it.
And we're going to talk about the difference between these two in just a moment. But covenant, true covenant, will always bring you together. So do you find yourself right now in a position where you feel like you are not together with your spouse or whatever you might have a covenant with? If you,
I probably have what could be termed a covenant with my wife, but I wouldn't, it kind of is just, not provided by God. My agreement is with her. Hooligan for $2 Canadian. Does the Lord send him super chats too? I don't know, but I would like an omnipotent being producing my show as well. That would be great. I don't think he's getting super chats from the Lord. I think he's getting super chats from fraud. Heyo! Thank you so much, Hooligan. I really appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
If you don't feel like you're together, then there's a breach of the covenant. And that is going to be a fundamental premise of what we're going to be talking about, ladies and gentlemen, for sure, without a doubt. All right. The second definition that we have over here is the actual Hebrew word, which is Brit. And Brit is Beit, Resh, Yod, and Tav. And in the ancient paleopictograph, now I'm doing this on the fly here because I don't have no clue, but Beit literally means house. Okay. Resh is the head, Yod is hand, and Tav means covenant. So you put that all together, what Brit actually means, it's the head of the house that has his hand to the covenant. Wow. I've never even seen that before till just now. So I'm learning that along with you, and that's pretty cool. That the head of the house, the word covenant literally means to cut. And in the Paleo Hebrew, it means the head of the house whose hand is in the covenant, whose hand is covenant. And let me ask you this, is your hand in the covenant? Is your hand all about the covenant? And so the word Brit, like I said, literally means to cut. And where they get that from is the word cut in Hebrew. When you're talking about the actual covenant itself, they would take a bull or an animal and cut it into two pieces when they did a significant ceremony. And so we see this in Genesis chapter 15 with Abraham and God. God decided to make a covenant with Abraham. It was very significant. And in this covenant, he cut an animal into two pieces.
And why didn't he get lawyers and draw up a contract that would be entered into the registry and law with the agreement between two parties? Oh yeah, they didn't have that. I don't understand what his point is about this. Like they cut up a bull and did a ceremony and made a covenant. They didn't have contracts.
And then the flaming torch and the and God and this oven, burning oven. I don't know what the exact word was in the scriptures. For some reason, it's missing. It's missing out of my brain right now because it's 10:14 when I'm recording this. But the burning torch and the oven, God Himself, Yeshua, really pre-incarnate, going through the covenant of the pieces while Abraham is asleep, and they are.
So it was Jesus before he was Jesus, as a flame in the oven. Admit it, you're just making crap up at this point. It was a pre-incarnation of Jesus who incarnated as a fire in an oven.
Are doing the walk of death, which is part of that ancient ritual Eastern covenant, saying that may it be unto us the same as this animal if I break this covenant. And of course, we know that Yeshua took our place because we're the ones that broke the covenant. We deserve death. He took our place on the cross, took the death march for us because we deserved it, and He took it on His shoulders. So it means to cut. Something must be cut in order to have covenant. This is where circumcision comes from, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so Luna, you weren't wrong. That's where he thinks that a covenant requires something to be cut, and apparently that is your penis. Apparently.
So let's go back to the PowerPoint here, and I just want to share this with you. I thought this was, when I wrote this, I thought, man, I wasn't going to put this on PowerPoint, but I thought it would be worth you reading along with me. It says virtually all the religions of this world equate God's blessing and acceptance with self-righteousness.
Oh, but we've never seen self-righteousness from a Christian. No, the Christians don't get into self-righteousness at all, in my experience. I am being insanely sarcastic. Like the irony of this guy claiming that God speaks to him and tells him how to run his YouTube channel, right? No, God tells him how to run his YouTube channel, but it's all the other religions that are self-righteous. All of the other ones. They're the ones that are self-righteous. Says the guy claiming that God is his producer.
They treat their relationship with God like a contract. The problem is that the believer can never live up to the contractual agreement and therefore can never receive the blessing. Ladies and gentlemen, did you hear what that's saying? What that's saying is this, is that in virtually every single religion of the world, there is a contract, and the deity requires the patrons and the servants to do certain things for that deity under contract. And the reality is that no one can ever live up to the contract. It's not possible. This is why the beauty behind the old covenant, behind the covenant that God made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all the way down even into the Mosaic covenant, it was not a contract. A contract
It kind of was. It's just they didn't have a word saying contract. It was sort of, you will do this. And they agreed to, like, he's really splitting hairs here over like contract and covenant differences.
Contract is a requirement that you keep all of the statutes and the limitations and the commandments,
Yes.
or else you're not going to be blessed. There is no relationship. This is phenomenal. What the creator of the universe did was something that no other God had ever done. No civilization had ever thought of anything like this, which was a contract that was built into a covenant. The overarching umbrella of the contract, or the items that were inside of the marriage contract, if you will, was built on the foundation of a covenant, and they're totally separate. They cannot coexist.
So it's a contract. Like, he's just making crap up. Like, seriously, like, you're basically saying, hey, this was a covenant, not a contract. What's the difference? It was built into the overarching umbrella. Yeah, but that's still just a contract.
Exist. And God made something that coexists, where even if you break the contract, according to contract law, you're done. Like, there's no contract, there's no relationship, everything is breached.
Yeah. So if you breach God's laws, or if you don't do what God says, which is to believe and love him, you're going to hell. It's not like you can do anything you want and there'll still be this covenant. No, you've got to believe in, as you call him, Yeshua or Jesus, and you've got to love and believe in Jesus, or else you're going to hell. Like, I don't, that's the contract. That's the covenant. But they're basically the same thing.
Everything is breached. God said, oh yeah, well, watch this. You can take the bark off the tree, but I'm going to make a centrifuge root that goes all the way down into the ground. And it doesn't matter how much bark you take off the tree. I'm going to maintain connection with the branches through the root of Jesse. And that root ends up being Yeshua the Messiah, the one who took on the sin of all mankind.
Yeah, but you're still in a contract. You still have to believe and worship Jesus, or else you're going to hell. There's still that contract. And yes, it is a covenant, but there's almost no difference. Like, a covenant is just a formal agreement between two parties. That's it. Like, and you may be talking about, hey, it needs something to be granted kind of thing. But the whole idea of a covenant is something has to be given by you, right? And that was the whole idea of circumcision in the Old Testament. You were giving of yourself to the Lord because of that covenant.
Kind, and he paid the debt that we could not pay, that the contract part of the law required, that if you sin or break the contract, you deserve death. That's what the contract said. But the covenant part of the contract said, oh, but I have the right to supersede the contract. I have the right as the one who's holding the contract and the covenant, the covenant foundation stone. God says, Yahweh says, I have the right by my covenant, because covenants are only as good as the one who is initiating it.
No. The covenant apparently changed. Like, so that's just a change in contract. You're just required to do other things now. That's all. It's just a change in terms. Either that, or it's a new covenant, which a lot of Christians do say is the case. They say, hey, it's a new covenant, doesn't apply anymore. This whole idea that, hey, there's a contract and then a covenant over it doesn't need to be there. It's just, because the covenant in the Old Testament was that there were the commandments that you were obliged to keep, all of them, as a covenant with God, or God makes a covenant that he won't drown people before. It's just an agreement. That's all. And this is just a change in agreement. You agree that you're going to, worship Jesus and you'll go to heaven, or not, and you'll go to hell. It's not this special thing that he's claiming it to be.
The character of the one who's initiating it. So God says, by my own character, by my own life, by my own power, I have the right to give grace. I have the right to pardon. And that is true power, ladies and gentlemen. That is true power, to be able to pardon someone and enter into...
Yeah, isn't it funny that the guy convicted of fraud is so hung up on pardons? That, just saying. Just putting it out there. You know, it might be unrelated, but just putting it out there.
To override the contract. Let's go a little bit deeper here. Let's go into the actual differences between contract and covenant, and then we're going to relate them to our relationships today. Because if you are having any kind of relationship problem, I'm telling you right now, I want you to put in the comments which one of these the Holy Spirit highlights, and then that's what we're going to work on. Okay, so let's get into contract versus covenant. All right, so contract versus covenant, here we go. On the left we have contract, on the right.
Yeah, so yeah, he's basically saying that a covenant is mediated by God, mutually beneficial through sacrifice. How can a covenant be beneficial to God? Like, what can a God possibly get out of it? So something's omnipotent, omniscient, has everything, is perfect. What can they want further from us? If something is perfect, what does it get out of you know, for benefits out of that? So this is just sort of, you know, basically it's just sort of making a thing. But notice how he said relationships, like he's sort of trying to say, hey, I'm now a marriage counselor. I know what's gone wrong in your marriage, and put in the comments what's wrong with your marriage.
Should do is go directly to your spouse. That's why the scripture says if you have ought against your neighbor, okay, you go directly to your neighbor. But no, your spouse, bad idea. And no, you don't go to your girlfriend first or your best friend and start talking about your spouse. No, what I'm talking about is you do what Moses did when he was offended. He hit the deck, meaning that he got on his hands and knees. He got God's perspective first, all right? And then he went to the people. You need to get God's perspective first, because covenants are mediated by God. You see, in the state, yeah, someone breaches a contract, you don't go to that person, you go to the state, right?
No, you go to the person first. You don't just lodge it with a broken contract. You say, hey, you're not filling up your end of the contract. It needs to be rectified. Like, yeah, you do go to the other. Like, so think about what he's saying, right? He's saying, hey, if you have a problem with your wife, don't go and talk to your wife, talk to God. What? No, talk to your wife. Have a reasonable conversation. Try to see it through your wife's perspective, not God's.
State, right? That's where it's right there in the contract that there is a mediation clause or there's a litigation clause, and there is outside litigators that will mediate that particular case. But in a covenant scenario, that's why I believe it's 2 Timothy says, don't you dare take another brother to court under almost any circumstance.
Yeah. So again, it is the convicted fraudster saying, don't take a brother to court. Just, it might be coincidence. Just saying.
Because we're dragging the name of Christ through the pagan courts. He says, don't you have your own courts? Don't you have elders and wise people that can mediate your case on your behalf? Anybody that two parties respect? For crying out loud, grow up, says God. And he says, start bringing your cases before wise people in my kingdom and let them adjudicate it and respect their wise decision. Don't take it before the pagan courts and drag.
I don't think we have pagan, like, what courts are you talking about? Because if you're talking about like the wise people of the Jewish, you know, the I can't remember what they're called. So the Jewish people used to have a delegation of priests kind of thing. If you're talking about that, we don't have that anymore. It's almost like he says, hey, go to your religious leaders to adjudicate things. You've been convicted of fraud. I mean, I hate to harp on this, but seriously. Yeah, so it's a hakam, or haham. Is a wise or skillful man. It refers to a sort of a scholar of the Torah, hakam, and sort of they're known as wise people kind of thing. And look, getting advice from somebody wiser isn't a bad thing. It's just this whole idea of don't talk to your spouse, talk to God or somebody else. No, talk to your spouse. Be honest. That you know, communication if you're having problems with communication with your spouse, in my opinion, you should get help from somebody who can teach you how to communicate in an honest and open way. Look, communication isn't, being able to communicate honestly and having trust in somebody and all of that kind of thing. It can be really hard. It can be really hard. But there are people specialized, guide marriage counselors and things like that who can teach you how to actually communicate in a way that's healthy and respectful and make your relationship better. But, I'm not claiming to be that person. But there are people out there that specialize in that very thing, and they train and learn about that kind of thing. Don't listen to some idiot on the internet telling you that some convicted fraudster saying, hey, go and talk to God if you've got a problem with your wife. No. Go and talk to somebody who, a psychologist that does marriage counseling, somebody that understands these problems.
Drag my name through it, right? So this is really important. They're not mediated by the state. They're mediated by God. Yahweh was there when you got married. So if you got a problem with your spouse, go to God. He's the covenant judge. He's the parent. Let me give you some,
not all of us, unlike you, claim to be able to talk to God. In fact, most Christians don't claim to be able to talk to God. They get feelings from God and they get signs from God. They don't actually have God saying, hey, change the video because I'm unhappy with the post product. Like, seriously, dude, what are you talking about? And this is a man who basically is advocating that he has God talking to him, that he hears God's clear instructions on what to do. But apparently God didn't, decide to tell him that selling products is, badly is wire fraud. He didn't bother to let him know on that one. All-knowing, all-powerful God of the universe, and he just couldn't let his favorite person know that this is wire fraud when you sell products and don't advise people of the risks.
We as people that have children and parents that have children, we get this concept significantly. You know why? Because when our children, one of my kids has an issue with their sister, they go directly to us. Like, it's all day, every day. If you got young ones, all I do is play judge. Like, I'm Pastor Jim, and I am husband Jim, and I am Judge Jim.
And you're ex-con Jim. Don't forget that one. Ex-con Jim. Yeah, don't forget that one.
Mainly my role around here is making sure that my two youngest don't kill each other. Okay. And maybe you've got the same in your house, and they're best friends and worst enemies all at the same time. It's fascinating to see that dichotomy.
Yeah, that's because you're an authority in your house. Like, you are the parent. That's kind of your job. When it comes to a God, like I said, people don't usually hear a God. They don't usually get direct instructions from them. And a lot of people have prayed to a God and come up with the wrong answer. Like, I asked God, he told me to do this, and it's demonstrably wrong. So why would we continue to do this if there's people that have talked to God and done horrible things afterwards, taken the lives of their family because God told them to do it. So, I think that this advice of go talk to God instead of see a professional marriage counselor or somebody else who has specialized in this particular problem that you're having is just very irresponsible advice. And I would not take life advice from someone that ended up in prison for wire fraud. I really wouldn't do it.
Economy, but they come to us. The covenant that
that's not true. If they were saying, hey, here's what I did and here's how to avoid it, that would be one thing. Like, if he said, hey, I misrepresented this insurance product and I took advantage of my place as a pastor, I shouldn't have done it, and it was horribly evil and you should not do that. I would be all aboard advice like that. All aboard, right? But that's not what this guy is doing. He's saying that he is a chosen prophet of God. Like, he said he hears God's voice. God told him to change his show, right? So he's a prophet of God and he's giving advice on marriage. I think he's full of it.
The covenant that they have with their sister runs through us. They understand this concept that they can't change their sister. Think about this. It's deep.
No, it's not. It's not. They don't have a covenant with their sister. No, that isn't the case. They are just siblings. I mean, if you're talking about the social contract as being the covenant, that we all, in order to be part of a society, that we have certain obligations that we have to do, then fine, I guess. But that doesn't run through the parents. It's run through society at large. In fact, a lot of parents will let their kids do things that society would disapprove of, and that's not right. And, you know, more than that, a lot of Christian parents will do that. I mean, the amount of times we've seen Christian parents let their kids do this or that or take advantage of their children is just incredible.
You can't change anybody. Put in the comments right now, I can't change anyone. I can't change anyone.
Can I just say, even though this guy is an ex-con and a fraudster and a complete huckster who claims to be hearing God, he really does have good interaction, like YouTube interaction skills. To hear all this, put in the comments, do this, you know, his calls for action is really good. I've got to get better at that because I just sort of wing it and just go, yeah, if people want to write comments, they can write comments. I don't really care. If you agree that I should be better at YouTube engagement, put in the comments. Mark needs to get better at YouTube engagement. Put that in the comments. Does that work? I have no idea. Is it manipulative? Maybe, yeah. It kind of is, isn't it? Like, I don't like it. It feels dirty. I feel slightly dirty. I don't know. Maybe I do have to get better at that. But seriously, if you do want me to get better at engagement, do write in the comments. But if you don't, that's cool too. Look, here I am qualifying it as well. Like, he's really good at it. I will give him that.
Anyone, because one of the problems that people have, we naturally try to change people, and you can't do it. And nobody wants to be changed. People want to be inspired to change, but they don't.
Nobody wants to be changed. People want to change all the time. I don't know anybody that would not like to change something about themselves because everyone has flaws. I don't know anybody that would go, no, I'm perfect. I don't need to change anything about myself. Maybe there are. But I think we can, you know, our sort of drive towards self-improvement or at least self-actualization, sort of saying, hey, I'm the best or I want to be the best person that I can be. I think that sort of, it encourages change. It encourages us reflecting on our behavior and changing. But I feel like this is a guy that's never reflected on his behavior and has never changed because his apology wasn't an apology and he's still doing the same huckster things he's always been doing.
Change, but they don't really want you to tell them to change. So put in the comments, I can't change anyone. Okay. So if you have an issue with your brother, with your spouse, go to God and complain to him. He's absolutely more than capable of taking care of it. As a matter of fact, if you have a serious problem, this is for someone out there. If you have a serious problem with a brother or a spouse, get on your knees and I dare you.
If you have a serious problem with a brother or spouse, get on your knees. Finally, he says something that I agree with. No, I'm joking. That is hilarious. I think that, like, they really don't understand what they're saying. You know, wow. I just, yeah.
Dare you to do a 7-day covenant prayer challenge. And it's an hour a day. And you've got to get up before dawn or when it's uncomfortable. And all you're doing is praying for your spouse. You're travailing in the spirit. You are warring for them. You're praying for them.
Don't talk to them or anything. Don't see how they feel about it. No, do 7 days on your, like, seriously. what is that going to do? Like, you have a problem with this spouse. Just say it's something like you want to invest financially in something and they think that it's too risky or too how is getting on your knees and praying to God going to solve that problem? Right? You could, just as a suggestion, this is just my opinion, you could talk to them, explain to them how much it means to you. You could come to some kind of compromise where you maybe invest some money, but not as much as you want and not as little as she wants. You can discuss, or he, she or he. You can always talk to your spouse, and and don't bother to try and see it from her point of view or his point of view. Only look at what God's point of view is. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Every part and everything that you can think of, you're thanking for them, you're praising God for them, and you're praying for them. And I give you my word or your money back at the end of those 7 days, if they are not absolutely transformed by what?
Okay, so I give you my word or your money back. Number one, it doesn't require money. You're just praying. No money involved. Number two, you're an ex-fraud that got imprisoned for making guarantees on insurance products you should not have been making guarantees on. This is what I mean when I say, like, he's just continuing his huckster ways. Oh, I guarantee it. Yeah, you guaranteed the security on those investments to those retired people as well, didn't you? How did that one go? What a huckster.
Your transformation. That's right, you heard me. You see, you'll start off praying, because I've done this, by the way. You'll start praying for them, and you'll be the one that's transformed in the process. They will see it, and their transformation will come from your transformation. It's incredible how it absolutely happens.
It's really not. That's the thing. You're much better off talking with that person and sorting something out. I wonder if this guy, because he said he was married in 1996 or something, which is pretty good. Like a 30-year marriage is pretty damn good. Yeah, 1996. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But I don't know. I just you know I just think you shouldn't be making guarantees like that. Have you not learned your lesson about making guarantees? Because I tell you what, everybody that gets down and prays and nothing changes, they're gonna think you're full of crap, which is probably true.
It happens. And it's so Christ. It's the God principle. Yeshua died on a cross, went into the grave, and was transformed into a new heavenly being. He was transformed in a blink of an eye. And his transformation was our transformation.
What? What? So what? I what? Like, Jesus' transformation is our transformation. Now you're just making stuff up. Jesus apparently, allegedly, transformed into a spirit that was all powerful. And what are you talking about?
Transformation. When he was crucified, we were crucified. So
I'm pretty sure I wasn't. I'm pretty sure I wasn't even alive. What are you talking about?
praise God for covenants, because covenants mean that we're yoked with Yahweh himself. And if we're yoked with Yahweh himself, you know what that means? That means we can trust him because he's a perfect judge. He's a perfect judge. All right, let's go to number 3 on our top 5. Contracts always have an opt-out clause.
Did your contracts for the insurance have an opt-out clause? I just wondering. Just wondering. Yeah, and he goes on and on about these things. Really, they're just the same thing. A covenant and a contract is just the same thing. There's no real difference between them in a practical sense. It's just that people back in ancient Hebrew times didn't have contracts; they had covenants. It's not really they're just covenants, a formal agreement. Contract is a written agreement kind of thing. But yeah, it's a Titan. Pretty sure Jesus transformed into a corpse. Yeah. Well, in fairness, I think we're all going to do that at some point, Titan. I think that is what's in store for a lot of us. So yeah. But yeah, that's I'm gonna stop it there because I'm kind of sick of this guy and his sort of shtick. But yeah, that's Jim Staley, who it's really disheartening for me to see somebody that is that dodgy and has been convicted of wire fraud, defrauded retired people by using his status as a pastor to convince them to opt into this product while not advising them of the risks, or at least that's what the government, the federal court's article says. United States Attorney Office says that he sort of defrauded these people, and he's back on YouTube getting 3.3 million watches on his video about the end of the world during the eclipse. Like, it's just the lack. I don't know. I get that these things are popular. I get that. But surely if you're watching somebody with this background, you would take it with a grain of salt. Like, you would say, hey, he's been lying for a long time. He committed fraud. His apology was not an apology. It was people were hurt when this wrong thing happened to me. Like, to me. That was basically his apology. Was a big non-apology. It really makes me wonder how people like this come up with such. I mean, he's got a large audience of followers. I'll look up how big his channel was. I did look this up, and I was like, really? What the hell is going on? Like, what's going on out there? Yeah, so he's got 228K subscribers, has been kicked off YouTube twice, and a conversation has to be had of why is this fraudster still on YouTube after he breaks terms and conditions so often? Like, how do you keep getting away with that? You look at the things that he's doing, and the apocalypse in April, and all of this stuff. There must be some way to reach the people that are following him to say, hey, don't trust this man. He has absolutely destroyed lives. And he's giving out marriage advice like, oh, I've got all the advice in the world with you because I'm a pastor, and I'm a husband, and I'm a this, and I'm a that. And you also have been to jail for wire fraud. I don't really understand how people who have been convicted and sentenced and pled guilty to being a liar and a cheat and a swindler can just get on YouTube, give out advice, and sort of make it out like they know everything. And this guy claims, don't forget, this guy claims that God is giving him a first-hand directions on what to do. Because he said, oh, I was going to run my this video, but God told me to do differently. He actually told me, no, don't do it this way, do it this other way. Why people don't question this, why religious people don't question this, I think it's got a lot to do with emotion. I mean, he says all of this stuff that's like, well, you feel this, and you will get in touch with, and God has created this, and they are being preyed on by this absolute reprehensible person. Absolutely reprehensible. And everything about that apology video tells me everything I need to know. The clock there to symbolize the passing of time, which doesn't work, as somebody in the chat pointed out. I think that was Booba Sweat pointed out, the clock doesn't work. It's just placed there. He's got an iPad because he's a modern guy. He's trying to signal, hey, I'm a modern guy. I've got an iPad. I'm hip. I'm cool. I'm modern. But he doesn't use it. He doesn't refer to it at any point during the video. It's there for show. He's got the plant in the background, which is, quite likely a fake plant. Life and stuff. All of it's white, symbolizing purity. You hear the music in the background. It's like this holy. It signals holiness, being this sort of choral music. All of this is designed for his followers to have an emotional connection with it, to signal to them that he is a great pure pastor with nothing to hide. But did he apologize? No. He said people were hurt by what happened to me. That's not an apology for defrauding retired people in your congregation. It's not an apology for that. So yeah, it's another Christian huckster, and the parallels between him and Hovind are very, like, you can see the parallels happening. But here's the thing: Hovind, even by other Christians, is a bit of a joke. This guy seems like his production values and his scamming is a lot more well developed. So yeah, it is a worry, and in some way, I'd like to know how to reach these people. How do you reach the people that are taking this guy as, oh yeah, no, he listens to God and tells me all of my stuff? I don't know how you would reach people like that. If you can tell me, like, go to the comments right now and put in the comments how I reach these Christians that believe beyond belief that this guy hears God. Go to the comments right now. I'm sorry. I'm just parroting what he does. And look, that's very effective. It's very effective. It's obviously one of the reasons why he's grown so much, is because he does do this engagement stuff. So is that wrong to do? No, I don't think so. I think as long as you're being genuine and you do want to grow your channel, I think it's fine. I guess it's effective. It gets engagement. It's good, but it's what he's selling that I don't like. It's basically this idea that he's got all the answers for you. I don't like, because he certainly doesn't. And if you're having problems with your spouse, if you're having problems with your girlfriend, it is frightening for anybody to either have done something wrong or be afraid of being hurt by who you're with. It takes a lot of bravery to sort of go, hey, I'm scared, or I don't like this thing that's happening. There are ways of talking to your spouse where it's less confrontational. One of the things that I learned was, instead of accusing and saying you did this, you sort of put it in terms of, hey, I feel upset when this happens, or when you do this kind of thing. I would prefer in future that this other thing goes. So just say you don't like your wife spending money without checking with you first, spends a lot of money. Okay. The bad way to go about it, well, to start with, the bad way to go about it would be get onto your knees and pray to God of what to do, because God's not going to help you out with that one. Okay, it's just not. You've got to talk with your spouse yourself. So the way I would do it, and this is just me, I'm not licensed to be a marriage counselor, so this is just what I would do in my relationship, is I would go to Lynn and I would say, hey, Lynn, I really feel a bit powerless when you go out and spend money, large amounts of money. I would really prefer it if you came through me, or you talk to me first, and that way we can have an open dialogue about our finances, and I won't feel resentful that I'm not a part of the conversation. That's not saying, hey, how dare you spend like that kind of comfort is never useful. But really what I learned just for myself is that the first thing you do is say how you feel, honestly, how you feel. Ask them what you would prefer, like, so what you would like to change, and don't give ultimatums. Don't say, hey, if you don't stop doing this, I'm gonna, this kind of thing, because as much as we want to do that, it's not really helpful. And the third thing is give some idea of why it'll be beneficial for them as well, right? Some idea of what's in it for them, because a lot of people sort of think, well, why? And I do it myself. You think, why would I do that? There's nothing in it for me. But if someone points out, hey, if you do this, it'll make our relationship better. Yeah, it kind of goes, oh yeah, I guess so. It is something that you can do, and it's not manipulation. It's very open with how you're feeling and how it makes you feel. But that's scary. That's scary. Sort of saying, hey, I feel very hurt by this is really scary with anybody. Having that vulnerability to say to your spouse, hey, I feel scared. I feel afraid. I feel powerless. I feel, all of these things that we all feel. We know we feel them. You're not fooling anybody. We know we feel afraid, scared, powerless, angry, upset, betrayed, all of these things. But just sort of communicating that in a way that's not, you're responsible for my feelings, right? That's what you want to try and do, because nobody makes you feel anything, but that doesn't invalidate that feeling that you have when something occurs, right? So, you know, your wife doing something, she doesn't make you feel that way, but that doesn't mean your feelings aren't valid when she turns around and goes and spends money without talking with you, as that for an example. Um, and coming to compromise. She might go, well, I think that I should be able to buy, new expensive headphones because that's for me and I don't, so you might have to come to a compromise that, hey, yeah, that's okay. But really big things like, a car or, certain things that, really concern you. And you might have to talk about it. And of course, talk about how she feels. Does she feel like she's powerless if she has to ask you before making any big purchase? That might be a thing. But starting that conversation and having that conversation and keeping to your boundaries is really important, I think. But that's how I deal with it. And that's what I've learned over many years of being in a relationship. And I also have done sort of therapy in which, having an anger problem when I was younger, of how to talk without getting myself wound up into anger, and how to sort of de-escalate things. So, but sort of telling people just to get down on their knees, it's not helpful. It's not. Look, there's nothing wrong with getting on your knees with your partner. Nothing wrong at all. Don't get me wrong. Like it's fantastic, but it won't solve a problem through God or through anything else. If you know, those who know will know, right? So yeah, but thank you so much for joining me. There's a little like life advice from me. Take it with a grain of salt. Things that work for me might not work for everybody, but I really think that that's how I've managed to have a good relationship, and my wife and I so rarely ever fight, but you will fight. The common ground is to sort of talk about it in a way that you both listen to what each other feels. But yeah, I am. Thank you so much, Beheaded. I really am. Yeah, you can, like, we all have down weeks, right? We all have weeks where things kind of just suck. Oh, actually, yeah, no, Star Song. I absolutely, yeah, no. I get cranky when I'm hungry. I really do. It's one of those things. I definitely get cranky when hungry. But that's okay. But I hope you've gotten something out of this. I just wanted to really highlight this particular individual, the similarities they had with our favorite Dr. Hovind, the Dr. non-Dr. Hovind, and sort of the just that what amazes me is the cheek that some of these guys have to defraud people, lie, cheat, steal, and then go onto YouTube and offer advice like they are they're a God-given present to people everywhere. It's just incredible. Just incredible. But you know, if you can, put in the comments how we're going to combat people like this. Put in the comments how I can reach his followers to say, hey, don't trust me. Don't trust me. Don't trust him. Well, don't trust me either. Definitely fact check me. I'm not, you know, I'm not getting voices from God. I'll give you that right now. I'm just doing things and the best I can, which is all any of us can do. You know, I can tell you what has worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, but you know, I don't claim that that's going to work for everybody or not work for everybody. So, yeah. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out so much. If you want to share it, share it. You know, if you want to, if you have a Christian that isn't listening, hopefully maybe you can share it and I can sort of point out why this guy shouldn't be trusted. But apart from that, don't forget to be kind to yourself. Respect your own boundaries. You know, don't lower them even for a spouse. If you have a boundary, talk about your boundaries. But again, be nice to others. Understand that she or he has boundaries too, or they have boundaries. And it may be important that you don't violate them. And that's where the communication comes in. If you don't feel you can communicate, find somebody who can help you communicate. Nobody is an island, and we all have problems with different things. I'm a good communicator. It's because I've worked in sort of a job communicating for a long time. Other people aren't, and that's okay. That's okay. We have specialists, we have marriage counselors, we have relationship counselors, we have people that specialize in how to help you communicate. So go see somebody. Nothing to be ashamed of. It's perfectly fine. But thank you, everybody. Take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.